In this video, we'll cover question D. Explain why the Bank of Japan introduces negative interest rates, so Japan, negative interest rates, while the US raised its interest rates. So what are some of the things we can notice? Both countries are manipulating their interest rates. This is known as monetary policy. Monetary policy has been removed from the H1 syllabus due to the COVID circuit breaker, taking up quite a lot of our curriculum time. But this question is still very much relevant to our syllabus. So as I go through this question, I'll explain to you how it is still relevant and why you should still pay attention to this question. Okay, this question is quite unique because this question asks you to explain the rationale of a policy. You see, explain why. Typically, questions will give you a problem and then ask you to suggest the policy and how the policy works to overcome that problem. But here, the policy is already given to you. And then they're asking you to work backwards, give an account for why the government chose to adopt this policy. All right? And in Japan's case, what they did was they reduced interest rates. In fact, they reduced interest rates so much it became negative. So this was the policy choice. And then for the US, they increase interest rates. And again, it's the policy choice, also part of monetary policy. To understand this question better, let's go through a policy framework, a framework that is used to understand any kinds of policy, macro or micro, any topic, any kind of policy we're talking about really. This is a very good generic framework to help you organize your thoughts. And I think if you understand this framework, then this question will be quite easy. Okay, so the framework is here. There are basically three main steps you want to consider when you approach any policy type question. The first is, what is the objective of the government when they implemented the policy? Okay, so when we are talking about macro, the overarching goal of the government is always to increase the standard of living of their residents, and in turn, the macroeconomic aims. So you want to pursue economic growth, unemployment, and price stability. For micro, the government wants to have efficiency, which is linked to market failure, and equity. So these are the objectives of the government. If the objectives are not met, then that's why the government needs a solution, and that's where policies come in. Policies really come in to overcome the challenges that are facing, that the government is facing. Then once you have identified the objective, you need to understand how the policy works. Okay, so this is where your models come in. In the context of macro, the model to understand policy is ADAS model, and the ADAS diagram as part of the model. So there are three aspects of the ADAS model. You need to know the components of AD and AS. How does your policy change AD and or AS? How do the AD and AS interact? And then how does it affect your real national income? And you can link the real national income to your demand deficient unemployment as well. And how does your GPL change? So take note, these should sound very familiar. These are really your macro aims, right? Back here, the objective. So some students get lost when they write because they don't know how to link whatever they are doing, how the policy works. They don't know how to link it to the objective, the effect. You have to be extremely clear of the rationale, objective of the government whenever they implement a policy. It is possible that the government may have multiple objectives, or it's also possible that they have a single objective but multiple policies to achieve that objective. It's possible, just that you need to have this framework in mind. So where does question D come in then? So question D is coming in here in part 2. They are telling you, look, we have monetary policy. We give you this in the question. We tell you that interest rates fell, and then we tell you that interest rates increase. This is for Japan, this is for the US. But why? So you need to understand what the objective is. And then once you understand the objective, you must explain how this policy gets you to that objective. Okay, so let me write that out. Question D. For Japan, you need to understand the objective of the Japanese government. You also need to explain how the interest rate reducing to the fact that it's negative achieves the objective of the Japanese government. Then for the US, you need to explain what the objective of the US government is, and then how interest rate increasing achieves the objective of the US government. So when you read the question or the extracts, you are finding information for this, the objective. You will realize that extract 1 gives us all the information we need to answer question D. So it will tell us what is the objective of the government, and we can infer that from the context that that Japan is experiencing, right? So Japan is currently experiencing deflation and economic slowdown. So in light of these challenges, these other challenges, the government's objective is to increase inflation or general price levels and to increase economic growth or your real national income. Right? That's the objective of the government because of the context that Japan is going through. They are facing deflation, they are facing economic slowdown, and we see this from extract 1. So this is the reason Japan adopts a certain policy, and that policy turns out to be to reduce interest rates. But how does reducing interest rates get us to the objective? Well, you have to link it to your AD. If I reduce interest rates, what happens is my cost of borrowing falls. From an investment's perspective, investment is likely to go up because expected returns to investment after repaying loans will likely increase. So investors are more willing to invest. Consumption is also likely to increase, right? Especially for large ticket items such as cars or houses. And when your C and I increase, your AD is likely to also increase. And then if you assume the economy is not yet at full employment level, the AD increase will lead to an increase in real national income and possibly increase in GPL. So if you are still not very sure on this point here, let me just draw a graph quickly to show you how that looks like. What we are saying is this is your AS and your full employment level is here, where your AS is vertical because this represents the productive capacity of the economy. If your AD increases along here, you realize that your real national income will not change at all because you're already producing at the full employment level, your productive capacity. Even if you demand more, the supply side of the economy cannot produce. I can't meet the demand. So there will not be a change in how much goods and services that I'm actually going to produce. But if your AD were somewhere here, which is below the full employment level, and your AD increases, then you will see that there is an actual increase in your real national income. And here we see actual economic growth, right? And take note that in the context that we are exposed to in the extracts, Japan is really suffering from the lack of demand. So there's not enough demand, which means to say that the AD is quite low relative to the full employment level. So this is a very likely situation faced by Japan. Okay, so when you have that your real national income increases and your general price level increases, this is how the policy achieves the objective of the Japanese government. And that's the expected answer you need to give. Okay, so first you must tell us that the objective of the government, of the Japanese government, is to increase the general price levels and the real national income. Then the second part is to explain how that policy actually achieves it. So what's the difference between the case of Japan and the case of US? It's really a difference in objective. The US, the context that the US is facing is that the economy is already recovering. So you see that the US AD is actually already increasing, and in fact, the US is facing high inflation. So because of this set of challenges, the objective of the government in the US is a little bit different. They want to manage price levels. That is to say, general price level to increase moderately or slow down the increase in the general price levels. Okay, and because the objective is different, they pursue a different policy. In fact, it's the reverse line of reasoning as Japan's case, where Japan, they reduced their interest rate to reduce the cost of borrowing. In the US, what they did was to increase the interest rates to increase the cost of borrowing. And this will have an effect on I, an effect on C, and an effect on AD. So there could be two sets of events. It could be that C and I falls as a result. That's possible. Or if it doesn't fall, then it could still be I and C still increasing, but at a slower rate. And if this second case is true, then your AD can still be increasing, but to a smaller extent. And why is this important? Link this to the objective. That your GPL may still increase but slower. So this is the same as saying the inflation rate is positive but falling. This is the objective of the US. So this question gives you 6 marks. What they expect you to show is 3 marks, the Japanese government's objective, and then how the policy of reducing interest rates achieves the objective, and another 3 marks to explain the objective for the US government and how the interest rate increase achieves the objective of the government. And I just very quickly recap how you do so, how you answer this introducing the objective of the government is first to introduce the context of the government, the challenges they are going through, and then, therefore, the objective is to overcome that challenge, and then after that, you explain how the policy does this. And this explanation is really through your ADAS analysis.